you know what a VAR model is then?
Yes.
Okay, what is the VAR model then?
All right. How much time do we have?
So in your testimony, you mentioned that the automated deposit requirements from DTCC came in at 5:11 a.m. Eastern, and it showed a $3 billion deficit, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay. At that point, 5:11 a.m.,
Ohio
did
representing.
you have the liquidity to meet the additional $3 billion deposit requirement?
Did you have the liquidity to meet the margin call?
As we wrote in detail in my written testimony, there were a series of steps that the Robinhood Securities team took to...
At that exact moment, did you have the liquidity for $3 billion? 5:11 a.m.
At that moment, we would not have been able to post the $3 billion in collateral.
Okay. So when you said, and you've said this multiple times, that
looking
you
at
did
someone?
in fact have the liquidity and you didn't have a liquidity problem, at that moment in time, that is not necessarily true, correct? You had to take steps to get there.
Congressman, we did have to, the Robinhood Securities team had to work with our relevant clearinghouses to adjust the risk profile of the trading day in order to meet our collateral requirements.
And in order to do that,
We had to adjust the risk profile of the trading day to meet the collateral requirements. So instead of going broke, they decided to mess with what's called a VAR model. But really understand it, okay? So he said,
I do.
you know what a VAR model is then?
Yes.
Okay, what is the VAR model then?
All right. How much time do we have?
What you're seeing is a live representation of Google skills.
How much time do we have for me to explain something, Rita? Just keep playing it. God damn it.
God damn it. All right.
and in order to do that, your choice was to throttle trading to prevent your clients from being able to purchase in certain shares, correct?
That's correct. Robinhood Securities had to...
You hear that? He had to adjust the risk profile of the trading day and work with clearinghouses to continue doing business. So basically, if the DTCC deems a certain security as requiring 100% collateral, if all your clients own GME and AMC, then that means they can't lend those out and make money on them, because the inexorable fact that you need to realize is that you don't actually own your assets. Let me say that again. If a custodial relationship exists, if somebody else holds your assets, you don't fucking own them. And you depend on the solvency. Remember, we understood this earlier. You depend on the solvency of an institution, meaning Robinhood. So when you see an institution behaving good or badly, you should definitely assess their risk. For some reason, we can understand this with crypto, but we don't understand this with our securities. Remember how the entire year, if you've been here since the fucking beginning, I've been complaining about fucking Robinhood since the fucking beginning. So let's keep watching and I'll tell you what happens if us
restrict buying in about 13 securities.
Okay. And if you had not been able to de-risk the profile or the portfolio, you wouldn't been able to raise the money, get the VAR requirement and the excess capital charge waived to de-risk the portfolio, then DTCC would have stepped in and liquidated the portfolio, correct?
Congressman, what the exact steps that we weren't in compliance with the deposit requirements would be, but it would not have been a good situation for the firm or the customer.
You see that fucking smirk? You see the fucking... Did anyone see the smirk? Did anyone see this? It would not have been a good situation. Yeah, DTCC would have liquidated their portfolio. Ah, I saw that smirk. It's not that the game is bad, okay? I'm not skewering Vlad. I'm just saying, for you to understand what is really happening, if Robinhood didn't adjust to meet the collateral requirements and got margin called anyways, because it would have been possible that they couldn't meet the collateral requirements. It's possible that everybody who had money in Robinhood would be liquidated. What happens during a margin call? You get liquidated at the exact moment you don't want to be liquidated, right? You take a what? A giant fucking loss. A giant fucking loss. So maybe you had Amazon stock and the dumbasses who were buying GME and AMC have now caused you to lose money on Amazon because your portfolio was force liquidated. They are not in your name. They are in what's called a street name. It means that Robinhood owns them, not you. Remember what I said. If you are in a custodial relationship, you do not own those assets. Did it just hit? How can you own them directly? You have to request two things: that they are not lent out and that they be direct ownership. That still won't protect you, though. So we're going to keep going.
If a clearing member fails to satisfy a margin call, it exposes other clearing members to risk and can put NSCC out of compliance. In a case of non-payment, NSCC may cease to act for the clearing member and liquidate its unsettled clearing portfolio. So that was definitely in the cards. For my constituents who are Robinhood clients, what would this have done to their portfolio if it would have been forced liquidation as a result of missing the capital call?
Oh, Congressman, if there was forced liquidation, at the very least, it would have resulted in a total lack of access to the markets for your constituents, not just to the 13 securities that we restricted buying in.
So this would have been an enormous catastrophe for Robinhood, correct?
Oh, SpaghettiOs. Oh, so nobody could have had access to any of their shares. You could have been the boring boomer in Robinhood who owned Amazon shares.
And not just Robinhood, but the over 13 million customers that we serve.
Yeah,
The
and I think
whole 13
that's
million
really
people.
the crux of the issue. So in a sense, I love your company because it does, when correctly
No.
managed, provide investment opportunities for individuals who are currently frozen out of the markets for one reason or another. At the same time, though, I believe a vulnerability was clearly exposed in your business model and perhaps in the regime that governs your capital requirements. And we just can't live in a world where my constituents could have their shares liquidated without their consent because you all aren't able to make a capital call. I appreciate that you were able to ultimately satisfy it. But
Don, we can't live in a world where your shares would have been liquidated. Remember when I said liquidate your asshole? How would you guys feel about your stock being liquidated? How do you guys feel about that? Right now, your portfolio is down. How would you feel about you not having the ability to hold and it liquidated? And imagine the next day it pumps right back up, but you were just locked out and liquidated. How would you feel? That's what almost happened. That's what almost happened. It can happen to anybody. The world runs on credit. The idea that a black swan event can't happen is a farce.
But the amount of time you have from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. to figure this out is scary for the company. And frankly, I care more about my constituents than anything, and scary for them. And so I hope we'll continue to look at that. Beyond that, though, I also hope that this hearing highlights a very real problem today and how they're accessed by everyday investors. Today, the Melvin and Citadels of the world, as well as major PE and VC funds, have access to the world's greatest investment opportunities on the planet. Whereas the retail investor world, of which Mr. Gill is a great member,
we waited all hearing,
for lack of a better term,
for one person to get it.
An ever diminishing set of investment opportunities. And so while we're debating these vulnerabilities, we're also serious about finding ways to expand access for Main Street investors. And with that,
Boom! That whole only congressional hearing. I couldn't have done better myself. The former football player brought it home. That was a touchdown. He won it all. I don't give a fuck. I want that guy in my district. Motherfucker understands some shit. Everyone else was just playing. He was playing the real game.